one of the flagship projects that we sort of undertook over the last couple of weeks was taking Dubai Mall, which is the largest, retail destination in our region online.
The advertising revenue, which presents a significant part of our business, is witnessing challenging clearly because of all what's happening and because of the cancellation of campaigns and the whole things that are going on.
We've allocated a $100 million grant for some 30,000 small businesses, a significant and meaningful portion of which are in MENA.
Have your ads become less expensive now compared to what it was before? Somewhere I'd read that Amazon's revenue is divided essentially into three parts, where 50% comes from its e-commerce operations, 30% I think comes from brands that pay the fee to use Amazon as a marketplace, and then the 20% comes from the web services that they have to offer. I'm not sure if your divide is similar, but at this point, do you think there's going to be more coming from fees from other brands because they're going to be using you more as a marketplace right now, correct?
Yeah, it goes back to our role in the marketplace at this stage. Very much is that of an enabler. Noon, we foresee sort of becoming that sort of deducting for retail. That's always been the mission, where we become the platform where retailers, brands can connect with this growing franchise of customers who are going online in our market. So yeah, I mean, it's we've always been, we started with the marketplace, and we've sort of grown that platform substantially since over the last couple of years. We continue supporting brands that want to go online in this sort of tough time where offline retail is mostly shuttered. One of the flagship projects that we sort of undertook over the last couple of weeks was taking Dubai Mall, which is the largest, retail destination in our region online. It was a humongous challenge where we went to also the mall and Noon worked together, when going to all the retailers that are in the mall, giving them an avenue, a storefront on the Noon platform, which is seeing substantial traction. And we were able to pull it off in a matter of weeks. And I think it's been incredible to watch that happen and that come to life and then grow and scale. And it's giving a lot of hope to our retail partners as well that, yeah, I mean, they can go online on the back of a platform or a marketplace like Noon. And we intend on deepening that bond and building more infrastructure to support them.
Right. So then can I just ask you one very simple question? So since the whole crisis has begun and the pandemic has been announced here, have you seen your sales increase or has it gone down?
I mean, I think given what's happening, I think internet companies are seeing a huge sort of boost around the world, and our market is no different. That's, I guess, to the extent of what I can say.
Right now, so obviously ad revenue and subscriptions is hugely important to you for your revenue. What are the changes you've seen since COVID-19?
As far as we are concerned, I think for us, subscription is still doing well so far. We're seeing even an increase in the number of subscribers. More and more people are consuming media. At the beginning of the crisis, we've seen a dip in terms of consumption, those commuters mostly. Then people started to get more accustomed to the stay-home lifestyle. So the consumption started to shift and it bounced back. Especially that we've seen releases coming back again. We've seen artists releasing albums, etc., like The Weekend, After Hours, Dua Lipa, and so on. So and even the locals. So the consumption went back to normal, and subscription is still slightly growing. But clearly, the advertising revenue, which presents a significant part of our business, is witnessing challenging clearly because of all what's happening and because of the cancellation of campaigns and the whole things that are going on. So that's in a nutshell. But I think that we're being a little bit more creative into how we can compensate this dip in advertising by creating more opportunities, so we can really keep that growth and maintain this revenue job.
Right. How about for you, Ramez? How is it going for you when it comes to ad revenue? Have your ads become less expensive now compared to what it was before?
What's clear is that while some businesses are thriving, others are suffering. and those that are suffering, particularly the small and medium enterprises that have had a dependency on foot traffic and physical engagement on a daily basis, need our help. We've allocated a $100 million grant for some 30,000 small businesses, a significant and meaningful portion of which are in MENA and will benefit from that. But I think as digital as our businesses may be, I believe these gentlemen and many others are also thinking about the source and the starting point that feed our businesses. Faraz pointed out the importance of his supply chain, the people working in the warehouse, the people doing the delivery, and I'm sure in Eddie's context as well, in his value chain, the various touch points that that are perhaps struggling, though other aspects of the value chain are succeeding. And so for us, things are in motion. I don't think anyone knows where it will land fully, other than to know that some things that we didn't expect to be as successful are exceeding our expectations, and other things perhaps are not meeting those expectations.
Obviously, completely agree with you here. But then, like you mentioned, there are certain businesses that aren't doing well. And amongst their austerity and cost-cutting measures, a lot of them are actually cutting down on the marketing and advertising budget. This question is for all three of you. Do you think that is the right thing to do right now, considering people are at home, they are consuming content more than they were before? Would you advise the smaller businesses and the startups, etc., to cut down on the marketing budgets or invest more in that? I'll start with you, Faraz.
Look, I think businesses are smart and they respond to market realities in the way they deem fit. We have seen sort of a whole host of offline businesses, retailers, food businesses, whose physical presence has been impacted by the crisis, and they are going online in a big way, and they're seeking new channels to distribute their merchandise or render their service. We see that inbound happening on our marketplace platform, but I'm sure Ramez sees it as sort of interest in their ad platform. So yeah, I mean, we do see sort of an increase in sort of interest in the channel. Absolutely. Platforms will do what they can. Right now, we're also going through a massive disruption in the supply chain. Like Ramez mentioned, we don't just live on a digital world. We have massive physical sort of footprints. Any business needs to be able to render services in some manner physically. So I think those things are obviously impacted, and to the extent you can operate, I think digital advertising is the only real avenue you have, because you can't really put a billboard up right now or play radio ads for people to listen to while driving. So I think businesses are making those choices. I'm sure our marketing team is as well.
But given the circumstances, there's also a challenge with that, right? About how people need to be sensitive and not just promote ads as they would otherwise, because we are in a crisis, and that is the reality.
No, absolutely. And I think and for that reason, our Ramadan campaign celebrates our drivers, right? It celebrates those heroes that are on the front lines, delivering those packages silently and going away. So last year we would have celebrated sort of spending more time with family or going out more and dressing better and all that stuff. But times have changed, and I think brands are adjusting, and I'm sure the gentlemen have seen that on their platforms as well.
Eddie, you mentioned that obviously ad revenue has come down, but then at this point, same question for you. Do you think brands need to be advertising more, and they need to be using platforms such as Anghami, Facebook, social media, etc. for doing that?
As mentioned by gentlemen, I think depends on the business. But here there's a very important point, which is the message you want to convey now. People are stuck at home, they're concerned about their lives. So you need to be a little bit considerate in the messaging. But it's really high time to invest in marketing because prices are lower now. For us, we decided to keep marketing, but in the context of entertaining people that are stuck at home, trying to promote artists, trying to give them a space to reach out to their audiences, because they're also stuck and they need something to breathe. trying to have viral campaigns that can raise awareness about staying home, especially at the beginning of this crisis. So you need to continue your marketing, probably not just relying on the digital spending, because now it's, even if it's now lower, but again, you have to be considerate about the message and try to see how you can help and to try to, send the message of entertainment. Because in our case, I think that we have an important role to keep people entertained, not to feel depressed, not to feel down, and music can play a vital role in that. And this can also play a good and positive impact on our brand.
And Ramesh, just coming to you now. So how have you seen brands actually adapting to this new reality in terms of the content that they're producing?
Look, there are a number of facilities that brands are leveraging, and I think everyone on this talk are very familiar with it. There's obviously pricing changes that people will consider for their products, particularly as costs are evolving. If you are dependent on logistics costs have fundamentally changed. Supply markets have fundamentally changed. How much of this can you pass on to your consumer versus how much do you absorb within your margins? And then how does the consumer behave in times of uncertainty? And we've all, read or experienced and lived through other times of uncertainty. Well, this is uncertainty in exponential terms. None of us have lived through a pandemic before, but typically in times of uncertainty, people operate in a very conservative way. If their job is at risk, if they don't know if their living conditions will change, they tend to be a bit more conservative with their spend, which is why pricing is so important. So how does a brand then navigate this type of condition? And so there are certain levers that you can adjust, and pricing is one, creative content is another. If you are selling water or you're selling food, that's one reality. But if you are a luxury brand or a luxury cosmetic or something of pure sort of physical dependency as sporting equipment, it puts a whole nother set of constraints and challenges on how you appeal to the sentiment of the consumer. But the consumer's sentiment definitely has changed. How much of it will remain, I think, is very much a function of the physical constraints.
Right. So for us, then, can I ask you, what are the main channels that brands need to leverage on to promote their products? And you don't really have to say Facebook just because Ramesh is here. I'm sure you.
I mean, in many ways, things really haven't changed from pre-COVID times. I think brands had found a certain channel mix that was efficient for their purpose. I don't think that has changed. At least the digital channels have changed in a material way. We would expect a lot of the spend on offline retail to have shifted materially towards digital, given that you really can't depend on that right now. It used to be quite expensive. So I think we expect brands to be more digitally focused. We expect in some form actually there to be CPC escalation, if anything else, because more people are going online, and we already see the early trends in that on the platform. On key advertising marketplaces, we see the costs haven't gone down; they've gone up, and that's entirely natural because there's more brands fighting for interest right now, and there's more dollars that are being diverted from the offline to the online channels. I think that will last. Maybe it's a baseline shift. If these dollars end up performing for brands, they will keep them there. There's also a grand experiment that's going on, and I think it'll be interesting to see what happens.